What's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, July 22nd. Senator Tommy Tuberville, Mike Howell, and Jim Pfaff join me on the podcast today. We're going to talk about Russiagate, Epstein, Hunter Biden, and so much more. I'm AlecLace. This is the AlecLace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the AlecLace Show. I'm happy and honored as always to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast as it streams live on Rumble, please get down there, hit the share button. Let's get as many people into the live broadcast as possible. Great to be back here with you guys today. I know I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Some of you guys that follow me on X or any of the other platforms have seen me posting, but I haven't had an AlecLace Show in 2 weeks. I did have a couple of trips down to the White House. I was there on 4th of July when they flew the B-2 bombers over the White House. It was pretty cool to be there for that. I was there on Thursday at the press briefing trying to get a question in. Was unsuccessful there, but glad to be back here. I got a great program for you guys today. I got Senator Tommy Tuberville joining me. I got the president of the Oversight Project, Mike Howell, and I got the president of the Conservative Caucus, Jim Pfaff, on the podcast as well. So I got a great show for you guys here. And a couple of things I want to hit on first because there's a lot to get to. Obviously, a lot to catch up on here. But trending mainstream right now, obviously the Russiagate explosion here with Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, now turning this over to the DOJ for investigation. Here's the thing. It's such a annoying thing to see because we know for so long, like Trump has known for how many years that they spied on his campaign, and nothing ever came of it. We knew that the Christopher Steele dossier was a fabricated investigation. The whole Russiagate thing, they dragged that out for 2.5 years. Look at how long past this we are. That's Trump's first term. We had his entire presidency, Biden's entire presidency, and now Trump's second term. And we're still talking now about this, what we all knew back then, that this was a setup. And Obama and the rest of those, Comey and Clapper and all these people that were involved in it all belong in prison, and nothing has happened from it. And now it seems like we're being led to believe we're going to see some accountability, which is what we are begging for here. We want to see somebody pay a price. Now, we know the big difference, and what I was pointing out for those of you who follow me on X, President Trump put this post up on his Truth Social, the Shady Bunch, right? And it's a meme of all these Democrats in the orange jumpsuit, right? James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, Barack Obama. And this is great. We love to see that. We hope it's like a foreshadowing of what's to come. But it seems like here's the picture of the Democrats. And you'll notice it's not a meme. This is the one the Democrats can post, right? This is the one that had Trump arrested, mugshotted, Rudy Giuliani, all the rest of the Republic. You had people flipping because of this, where there was no there. They went after Trump. They had him sit in court. They did their best to try to get him off the ballot. Now, in their case, what they did, I think, made him stronger because the lawfare was unjust. It was not justified, and that's exactly why you saw Joe Rogan actually make the flip. And Joe Rogan, who was pretty much reluctant to have President Trump on his podcast for many years, and especially during the campaign, what made him change his mind was that he was being unjustly prosecuted. The lawfare is what changed Joe Rogan's mind, because we all saw it. You went after President Donald Trump on a bookkeeping error. You went after President Donald Trump on some real estate rule that no one's ever been charged on, where he took a loan out and paid back the loan in full. There was no victim. There was no nothing. You had that battle axe that came out of the blue and said, oh, Trump couldn't resist me. Trump, who could have had any woman he wanted at the time, couldn't resist this battle axe in a dressing room. So he had to go through all that. So, but the difference is, and it has always been, is that the Democrats play to win and the Republicans play not to lose. So we want to change that up, and we want to see the major difference in the Republican Party by, yes, investigate, but we want to see the arrests. We want to see prison for what they have done. And what they have done is a real crime. What they did was 10 times bigger than a Watergate could ever be. And the other side of that, what we are going to hear from the Democrats, even when you show them the proof, even if Barack Obama himself went to the microphone and said, yes, I knew this information about Trump was false, and I used it to subvert the will of the American people by using it to create a false narrative that Trump was helped by the Russia and colluded with Russia in order to rig the 2016 election. Even if Barack Obama said that, the left-wingers would say, Barack, it's justified. You had to do it. Even though you broke the Constitution, even though you broke the law, you had to do it because we had to save democracy. We had to protect democracy from Trump. So it doesn't matter whether or not they admit it, if they're found guilty, if you have all the evidence right in front of their face, they're still going to say, well, it was justified. We had to get Trump. He was that bad. But it needs to happen. Like, you need to see these people in the shady bunch go to prison. And unless that happens, then none of it means anything. And do we have faith now, or are we being led astray like the Democrats were with the walls are closing in? This is it. They finally got him. You see the meme with the, hey, hun, get your boyfriend. Come here. Look, they got Trump. They got him this time. Are we going to be led down that path of, hey, look, we got Barack this time. Or we got the Democrats this time. They spied on the campaign. We need results. We need accountability. Now, we're only 6 months into this presidency, so we're early enough in the game where it's not like we're at the tail end and we only got 6 months to go here. There's time on the clock, and this has got to get done. And that's what we want to see as accountability and results. So that's my take on the Russiagate. We need to see things in motion. We need to see them happening fast. We need to see Barack Obama. Who is it? General, I got to get Michael Flynn back on the podcast here, man. He's been crushing it if you're watching him on it. He's like, take this guy's passport, right? Invade his house. That's what they did with Trump. And we're not seeing that same type of tenacity right now while we have the ball, and we should. And here's the other thing, and the last point on this. What will be the difference that you'll notice if Barack Obama is placed in handcuffs and mugshotted? What do you think will be the reaction of the left-wingers? Will it be the same as you saw from us when Trump was mugshotted, when Trump was shot in the head, when Trump was trying to get pulled off the ballot, was sitting in court? What was the reaction from MAGA? Did they get violent? No. Did they riot? No. What did they do? They went to the ballot box and they voted. What will be the reaction from the Democrats? They will use that to create chaos in this country. That has to be the favorite. If you were a betting man, you would say when Barack Obama, if and when Barack Obama gets arrested and put in prison, there will be chaos because of it. No matter whether he's guilty or not, it don't matter to them. As I said, it'll be justified. Now, the other piece on this is the Epstein case, the Epstein files. Now, I agree with President Donald Trump that the Democrats are using this, they are opportunists here, taking advantage of this thing for themselves, which is what you expect if you're them. This is the way they are. They're vicious. They'd be stupid not to use it because of the way it's been handled by Pam Bondi, whoever, everybody in this administration that's had a chance to do something with the Epstein files, it has been handled very poorly. Now, President Donald Trump, to his credit, now people have tried to pin it. It was a campaign promise. This was a campaign promise. No, it was not a campaign promise. President Donald Trump put out his campaign promises with the Agenda 47, 20 of them. None of that was the Epstein client list. You heard him talk about it on a podcast. He was asked and pressed about it. Rachel Campos Duffy asked him about it. He said, yes, I would release some of the stuff, but what's fake in there and what's not, there's a lot of nonsense in there. There's a lot of fake stuff in there. Because, of course, the people who had it for the last 4 years could have done anything to it and probably did. The same people that set him up with Russia. You don't think they would set him up with this and leave a little ticking time bomb for him? And it's interesting that the Democrats never once in 4 years ever called for the Epstein list to be released, ever. They had Joe Biden in there. They had control of the DOJ, control of all the intelligence. Why don't we release it? They never even once asked for it. Why not? And now all of a sudden they seem interested in it. Now they're interested now saying, we want to get justice for the kids that were trafficked. Okay, well, what about justice for these kids that were trafficked over Joe Biden's open border? Do we want justice for those kids, or do we just want justice for these kids now? Which kids do we want justice for? Because hundreds of thousands of children went missing after being trafficked over Joe Biden's open border. Do we want to go after child predators that were just on Epstein's island? Or do we want to go after all child predators, like the illegal aliens that are raping and sexually assaulting young children? Do we want to go after them too? Because we don't hear the Democrats talking about that. So they're opportunistic, yes. But, again, the handling of it has been complete terror. I mean, this is. Now, Trump, a lot of wins. We're going to get to those wins today. We're going to talk about a lot of them. But this has been the mark. Now, right now, we have he had enough of it because the Wall Street Journal, which came out with this, hit piece on Trump, trying to tie him to Epstein, came out with some cartoon that he supposedly drew or some nonsense that Trump is suing them into oblivion. It's a $10 billion lawsuit or $20 billion lawsuit. They just took the Wall Street Journal off the White House press pool, so they're paying the price for this. But that gave Trump the ability to say, hey, Pam Bondi, unseal the court testimonies and all that stuff. So that's what the process is now, which should have been the process right away. He should have unsealed this stuff right away because the people did call for it. It's not a must-have. Again, the Epstein list is a nice-have. It's not a must-have. It's a nice-have. It's something that's the entertainment piece of this thing. Yes, we want justice for the victims and the kids that were lives destroyed. Yes, but this one way or the other, the Epstein list is years ago. The kids that were there have grown up. There's kids today being trafficked into this country or were under Joe Biden's watch. That needs to be rectified as well. The border being closed, must have. Economy, must have. So there's a lot of things that, as much as I'm in the same boat, I want the Epstein client list out there. I want people that did this to be held accountable. There's no question about that. And if the case was that you believe that it was that this was a hoax from the Democrats set up, state that out of the gate. Pam Bondi saying that we have the files on my desk, we have the truckloads of files, we have all these influencers coming out holding the binders, and then, hey, don't ask about it no more. There ain't no list. I mean, that was bad. No question about it. I was just as upset as many of you guys were. But now we have to say, okay, let this process play out. Let's see what's happening. And again, it's what the Democrats are going to use as a distraction for the next 3 years here until it is resolved. And it must be resolved. One of the other things yesterday we got was these MLK files that were released. You had 230,000 files from Martin Luther King's assassination declassified. Now, they declassified thousands of these JFK files, RFK files. I have no idea if anything changed. Did anything change with what we know about the JFK assassination? Because if it did, I didn't hear about it. Will anything change because of this Martin Luther King declassification? And if not, why were 230,000 documents classified if they don't show us anything? I don't know what any of it all means. If you found some meaning in it, let me know in the comment section. The last thing I'll touch on before I bring on the guests here is the Hunter Biden. They put this interview out that was bananas, this thing yesterday with Hunter Biden. He went on a rage and a rampage against the Democrats, talking about how basically he didn't like the fact that they threw his father under the bus, is what he feels like, and they pushed him out and they didn't let him run for re-election. But let's be honest, they're the ones that put him in there in the first place. He didn't beat Trump, heads up. He was a terrible candidate. He campaigned from the basement, and all of a sudden he got 81 million votes, and then he was so bad he couldn't run again. But Hunter Biden is showing some anger at the Democrat Party for not allowing him to run again. They pushed him to the side and then installed their next candidate, which was Kamala Harris, who nobody voted for. But one of the interesting things that he did say was that if he was the president, he would tell El Salvador to give us back all of these illegal criminals that we gave them, or we're going to invade you and bring them back ourselves. Imagine this guy saying this. You have some of the worst people in the CSOT down there in El Salvador, and this schmuck, this auto pen pardoned crackhead laptop user telling you, oh, I want these illegal criminal aliens gangbangers to be living in your neighborhood. We're gonna invade the country to bring them back. That's how how much this guy's lost his marbles, right? A guy that's got security, lives in a mansion. He's protected. He's secure. He's got as much crack as his little heart desires. He wants you to have to live with MS-13 gangbangers and stuff like that. Imagine this. So I thought the rampage was, and it was, profanity filled throughout the whole interview. Mother effer this, mother effer that, F this, F that. This guy's clearly not doing well. The Democrat Party clearly not doing well. So one of the other things I want to jump into too here. Let's get into this. I'm going to bring on Mike Howell. He is the president of the Oversight Project. He's also a contributor to the Daily Signal and the Blaze. He was testifying last week before the Homeland Security Committee, and he always brings the heat whenever you see him. And you've seen a lot of viral clips of Mike really just crushing these Democrats as he testifies, and he always shuts them down. I'll give you a little taste of it, but obviously the number one success from President Donald Trump's first 6 months has been the border. He put this up yesterday saying, one of the greatest success stories in the history of the borders, and I'm including borders from anywhere in the world. Congratulations, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Rodney Scott, Pam Bondi, and Pete Hegseth. But a special congratulations to Border Patrol and ICE. These are all absolutely amazing people. And so you had Mike Howell testifying last week, and he called out the marriage between the federal government and the so-called NGOs, saying that the invasion could not have been accomplished without the colossal partnership between the government and open borders organizations. The Oversight Project, of which he's the president, tracked 30,000 migrant cell phones and found that they dispersed to 431 congressional districts. And that's nearly everywhere in the country. So the NGOs played a huge part in the invasion, and now are they playing a huge part in the protests and the resistance we see to ICE as we try to now deport all these people back out of the country? That's where Mike Howell comes in. Let me give you a piece of his testimony from last week, and then we'll bring him on.
Mr. Howell, I have a couple of questions for you. Very straightforward, yes or no. Do you support this type of treatment of human beings?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. All the other Democrats haven't asked a question, so I kind of wasn't paying attention. Can you restate it?
Okay. The detention center facility conditions in this country are atrocious. Women are being harassed. They're being dehumanized. In Arizona, they were forced to march outside in 120-degree heat until somebody fainted. I have visited these detention centers as part of my oversight responsibilities. I know you're a big fan of oversight. Do you think that is acceptable treatment of human beings by the United States of America?
For illegal aliens to be detained throughout their immigration proceedings, yes, I think it's the law.
To be treated in
I'm not taking your word for it.
Okay. On top of that, 17 million Americans were just cut off of health care thanks to the vote of all of the Republican colleagues over here. Meanwhile, Republicans just gave more money to ICE and DHS to the tune of $170 billion. It's now one of the largest funded agencies in the world, about 16th or 17th in terms of what a military would look like for other countries. Again, you talked about the importance of oversight, Mr. Howell. Do you believe that members of Congress are legally allowed to conduct oversight of ICE detention facilities?
As we've written extensively, the Oversight Project, because we're trying to help keep your colleagues out of jail, like Representative McIver, who was indicted. I misspoke when I said she was arrested. You as an individual member do not have oversight authority. Oversight authority by the rules of the House flows through the full House to the chairman, and that right now is held by the majority. So
it is
despite the statute that you cite,
Mr.
it's going to end up with more Democrats clogging our jails. I want to keep you out of jail.
Reclaiming my time. Thank you. It is actually legal for members of Congress to go to detention center facilities that are operated by our government and to conduct oversight. That actually is legally allowed.
That is incorrect.
Always a joy to see Mike Howell giving him hell on the Hill. Let's bring him on now. Again, he is the president of the Oversight Project, contributor to the Daily Signal and the Blaze. I got the link to his Twitter account down there below. Mike Howell, let's bring him on the show.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Mike Howell. Welcome to the AlecLace Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, what's doing? It's great to see you. So you, I've seen you testify there, in front of the in front of the committee hearing on the inside job at the end. Let me ask you this, Mike. What is the connection that you're seeing with the NGOs that were behind the Biden administration's, collapse, the immigration crisis at the border, and what we're seeing right now with the same kind of momentum behind this anti-ICE movement?
Yeah, so the best way to understand this is during the Obama administration, they figured out a new form of government, which is basically the Constitution limits what the feds can do, therefore set up big pockets of money and have the NGOs do what the hardcore radicals in the government cannot otherwise do. So this happened in a bunch of other contexts. You asked about the border context. During the Biden administration, the goal was as many people in the country as possible. But there's only so many people who work at Border Patrol and elsewhere. And guess what? They're not Uber drivers. They're not concierge services. They can't hand out gift cards. And so the Biden administration decided, let's get billions of dollars and let's put it into these huge pockets of money. And then the NGOs that bring people there and can move them around the country, get them food, get them gift cards, get them legal services, everything you could need and want, far beyond what your average poor American citizen would have access to. That's how they did it. That's how they got so many people in the country. What's happening now, obviously, Trump's not going to let the border be used for those purposes. He shut it down. You have the residual amounts of money that fed this ecosystem that, of course, feasts when Democrats are in power. But even when Democrats aren't in power, when you're talking billions of dollars, that still reverberates through the system. And we're seeing the nonprofit structure now shift from getting people in and around the country to helping them stay in the country by, one, funding anti-ICE things to try to literally up to the point of it physically attacking ICE. We've seen that, we've seen members of Congress do that and get arrested for it, but training them on legals on how to obstruct ICE, businesses on how to evade ICE, the legal challenges you see in the system, it's all from the same blob. It's not as direct of a connective tissue as it was in the Biden administration, where it was money to that nonprofit for that specific purposes. Now it's a little more attenuated and a result of just so much money in the system, but that's how they're funded.
Is there any legal precedence? Is there a law being broken by what they're doing here? Or are they just skirting the law on technicalities? How are they legally able to use this money to funnel people into the United States and then legally use money in order to fight to keep them here? Is what they're doing legal on any kind of legal basis, or what, are they breaking the law?
No, it's not legal. It's largely unprosecuted crime. This is where things have gone wrong in this country, is we've allowed basically illegal immigration to be a political dispute. It's not. It's law, illegal versus illegal. I mean, it's really that simple. What these nonprofits are doing in terms of the evasion and obstruction, I use those terms specifically because those are criminal statutes, is largely unprosecuted. You're not seeing the Trump Department of Justice charge that many people with it. They'll charge a few, like the judge up in Wisconsin, or a couple other, top dogs, if you will, as example cases. But for the rank and file, they're not charging them. All the people who threw rocks at ICE, they weren't fully prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The protesters we see on here in D.C., they're right out there right now, blaring air horns in people's ears, spitting on them. They're not prosecuted. And so it's a gray zone of, well, it's not gray, it's black and white. It's just that for certain reasons, there's not the political willpower to go out and arrest all these people. Like Senator Padilla, he should have been arrested and charged for what he did out there when he tried to attack Kristi Noem, acting like a complete thug. And a lot of it is because Republicans and those on the right are just scared of their own shadows. They don't want to do something that could be perceived as, oh, you're attacking the First Amendment rights of people. But my point is, this isn't about First Amendment expression. There's no First Amendment right to violent protest. There's no First Amendment right to obstructing, evading, and otherwise impeding immigration efforts. And this stuff needs to be charged right now, or else we're going to get a lot more of it, particularly as, and this is what people don't get, there's really not that many deportations happening right now. People are freaking out over kind of normal numbers with a lot of attention around them. If the Trump administration actually ramps up to mass deportation, guess what? The radicals will ramp up too. And unless we start prosecuting them now, people are going to get killed. It's that simple.
That's, you just said the key point there too, Mike. We don't have mass deportations happening right now, but if you watch the media, you would think that they are taking place. You would think that this is why, I think what's her name got tripped up the other day. I forget on which show. One of those lunatics that she used to be on CNN there, the black girl with the bald hair there. She was tripped up because she was asked, how many people did Barack Obama deport? And she had no clue. Yet she's making this thinking that Trump is deporting more people than Obama. Obama deported between 3 and 5 million million people, 75% of which got no due process whatsoever. And there was no stink. There was no marches. There was no standoffs. There was no nothing. Trump's not even close to those numbers yet. He's not even sniffing Obama numbers, and they're going crazy over what's going to happen if and when these mass deportations do begin.
Yeah, that's 100% right. So Obama fudged the numbers a little bit. In deportation, when you and I think of it and everyone else, it is someone from inside of the country being sent back to their home country. What Obama did to juice his numbers, because he was trying to act tough, to get that DACA amnesty type deal, before he decided, I don't need to obey the laws, I'll just do it myself, and then gave all the money to the NGOs. But in that moment of time, when he was trying to look tough, he had kind of normal deportation numbers on the inside of the country, but he was counting people returned at the border. We call those returns as deportations. And so that was the bulk of his numbers and why people call him the deporter in chief. But that's functionally different when someone shows up to the border saying, no, go home, than what mass deportations are. Deportations are people on the inside getting sent out. Now, here's the rub. The numbers are low no matter which way you cut it right now for President Trump. He just got a lot of money to execute on this. He's not going to have the ability to, fudge the numbers because no one's coming to the border because the border's secure. So you can't draw from that pool and say, well, that's actually a deportation. So on one end, you have the Trump administration wanting for their base and the American voters, 77 million, et cetera, to have a lot of deportations. But they aren't going to be able to get there unless they fundamentally change strategies. And then on the other hand, you're going to have the left and the radicals saying whatever Trump does is way out in excess and a complete break with history. And so those are the two ends of kind of the spectrum. Obviously, what I think and what President Trump said on the campaign trail is mass deportations. That means millions of people from the interior taken home. I hope we get there. We're nowhere near there, and people are acting like we are there.
And just to go back to the point with the attacks on these ICE, we just had a CBP officer shot over the weekend in New York City by 2 illegal immigrants. One of them, I think they caught. I don't know if they got the other guy yet or not, but the attacks are up like 700% on the ICE officers. Mm-hmm. And then you got people like Jerry Nadler's like, oh, what attacks on ICE officers? I haven't seen any of that. Just like Mayor Bass there in Cal. What riots? I don't see any riots. It's like they have a totally different vision of what's going on in reality here. But the truth is, we're going to continue to see those attacks on these ICE officers because the Democrats are doing nothing to tone down the rhetoric. They're going to these ICE facilities, begging to get let in, and politically stunt is what they're putting on these political stunts is what they're doing. But it's driving the base. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? Let's cooperate here, encourage these people to self-deport, and it will be safer for the illegals, safer for the ICE agents, and safer for the citizens. But they're choosing not to do that.
You're 100% right. So when I testified last week, the most up-to-date number was 830% increase on attacks on ICE. That is a low-ball number because, as we said, not everyone's getting arrested, right? Those are the only logged assaults and things like that. I was making this point to the Democrats, and they tried kicking me out of the hearing, and that's the viral clip that I think people saw. But I was explaining how the Democrats are putting out the political hit. And not only that, some of them are actually involved in the violence, Padilla, McIver, and others. But rhetorically speaking, they're saying things like, we want blood in the streets to grab people's attention. Time for civility's over. These are Gestapo. They're terrorists. Swalwell called them terrorists. And so they're basically mainstreaming political violence from the Democratic Party, full well knowing and excusing the violence that'll be a result of it. Swalwell even said this. He goes, if you guys don't stop enforcing the law, there will be violence and you're being terrorists. And so he's basically laying the predicate that violence, since it's expected and you deserve it, it's not our fault. And that's completely out of touch. This is all happening when after Democrats got shellacked in the last election cycle, they're like, we got to be normal, but they can't just be normal because their political base is crazy. And what this is all about is we're deporting their voters, their future voter pipeline. And so they're fighting like hell to make sure we don't deport their voters. And it's an existential crisis for them. And I wish they could just say that out loud. Of course they won't because they're liars.
Yeah, and it also hurts their congressional districts because by deporting these people, they can lose House seats, So not only they lose the voters, but they're losing, in the census, when we start counting all these people up again, they're going to be losing seats. So I think what is it like, Mike, to testify at one of these committee hearings and have these people? I mean, I've seen the viral clips and they're jumping on you like, what is that like? You're sitting there, you're prepared and all this stuff, and then you can't even get a word in. They're trying to, what is that like, man?
Yeah, look, I worked in this oversight space with these hearings and investigations for like 15 years. I don't have too much respect for some of those members. They don't deserve it. I think there could have been a time in U.S. history where deference and decorum would have been preferred. But you look at the members that are there; they're radicals, and they're insane. They're hurting people. They're going to get people killed. And so I have little patience. And I didn't expect them to want to listen to what I said. Honestly, Democrats have been trained at this point because, frankly, they're not the brightest bulbs. They don't even talk to the Republican witnesses because they know they'll lose the exchange. Since I kind of popped them in the mouth right out of the gate, I got a reaction out of them. And so I knew they were going to come and attack me. I also knew I know way more about this than they do, particularly on areas of the law and the statistics. And they were just going to make rhetorical type arguments. And, so look, it was what I thought it was. I don't think they expected to get popped back that hard. And that's why I don't think they're going to ask another, Republican witness a question for a long time.
Yeah, it was brilliantly done. But this is the key, Mike. It's like that's the type of attitude that we do need, because we still have, it seems like, these Republicans that are under this delusion that Democrats are willing to come to the table on certain things, where it's like they have zero interest in anything that you have to say at all. They are one-way train. And we're trying to say, oh, let's see if we can make it go both ways and have a little. And until we put on that same type of attitude, nothing's going to change. We're going to keep getting run over by them because they're coming full steam ahead. And we're like, oh, we're trying to just hold them off a little bit instead of going on the attack.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And you see this playing out right now. There are a bunch of Republicans trying to negotiate amnesty with the Democrats and completely undercut the Trump agenda. Mike Lawler up there in New York. And it's because they think it helps them for some reason win their specific districts. It doesn't. There's a reason 77 million people voted for mass deportations, and mass deportations was a majority position and still polls very well. I don't know what's in the DNA of these people, but the Republicans are of a different type, the elected ones. They're completely out of line with the base, and they still think that Democrats who are on an existential mission to destroy them, I mean, that's what they've done. If you look at the last 20 years, every institution they've touched, they've tried to destroy. Now they're on to the family, to concepts of basically sex and gender, of a border. Look what they did to the border. And they celebrated the biggest violent invasion of this country in our history, and they all celebrated it. And so to act like they, want to negotiate on immigration is absolutely insane. It is their long-held agenda to just replace their voter block, because their voter block's not reproducing. It's a lot of, there's no blue dog moderate Democrats left. They're all dying off, unfortunately. And you're left with really radical youth, upper middle class, particularly white women who aren't having children. And so they need to replace and get new voters because they're not creating families. They want to import them. And that's what this is all about at the end of the day. And to act like there's a middle ground there when it's extinction politics is just insanity.
It just seems like it's amazing how many people they got to go along with the idea of invading the country is okay. And we just had Hunter Biden just did an interview that came out today, saying that if he was the president, he would go invade El Salvador to bring all these people back. You got to bring all these people back. And it's like, did the American, the average Democrat want all of these people that are gangbangers and rapists and all this stuff back in the country in the neighborhood? It seems like they're out of touch with their own base. They're manufacturing a base that doesn't exist. And it seems like all the momentum that they had was just anti-Trump. Now, it could be said both ways. Most of our momentum is pro-Trump. And I think we'll see that in the 2028 election, how much different it's going to be without Trump on the ticket, what that does to both sides, because it seems like most people came out to vote against Trump, not to vote for Kamala Harris. So it just seems like they're placating to a base that just is non-existent.
Yeah, and Hunter Biden wants to invade a country and get closer himself to the pure cocaine supply. Colored me shocked. That's why he wants to go down there.
Yeah, I know, but it's ridiculous to hear these talking points, and it is. One of the number one, I would have to be tied up there, economy and the border. Those were the two number one things for Trump to run on. And he's already succeeded with the border. And it just proves the point that the Democrats were completely, full of shit, that it was, we can't close the border because of the Republicans won't do this bill. And we're trying to do it. Trump came in and just closed it. So it just goes to prove that they were lying to the American people the whole time. It was done purposely. But now lies this big thing that he's got to partake in. Like you're saying, from the interior, deport millions of these people out of here, and it just seems like at this point it seems like it's gonna be very, very hard for him to accomplish this.
Yeah, well, he's not gonna be able to. Well, the good news is he has the money now. The reconciliation, big beautiful bill. What the hurdle they need to get over in the Trump administration is to stop pandering to the establishment Republicans. To do mass deportations, you can not only arrest criminals. There's only about 500,000 criminal illegals in the country. Of course, they're all criminals.
Right.
To do Eisenhower level numbers, he's got to get in the millions. And that means worksite enforcement. And that means going to, big farms, factories, et cetera. And that's going to upset a lot of the establishment Republicans who are still in bed with the Chamber of Commerce. And so it's ultimately in President Trump's control if he's going to, go that hardcore. But it's not doing him any favors when these Republicans are standing up right after the big, beautiful bill. And he gave them a lot of what they wanted and didn't deserve, the salt tax and stuff like that, and things that they were threatening to hold up the bill over. And then right after that, instead of saying thank you, they're saying amnesty. And it's Mike Lawler leading the charge, Salazar, and the same gang of people. And Trump's given the establishment so much in terms of he's arming Ukraine, he bombed Iran, he's doing things that should have made them happy, but it's never enough for them. And so we got to decide. Is the establishment going to eat the MAGA movement, or is MAGA going to eat the establishment? And President Trump has 3.5 years left in elected office. And these midterms and who he supports and what those people are pushing for will determine what our coalition looks like for years to come. And so, you look at, to your viewers, look at these endorsement picks from President Trump very carefully. He hasn't made a lot of them yet. But if he sticks with, the establishment people who are undercutting him, like Joni Ernst is up in Iowa, and I saw some reporting that they want her to stay. We should have really hardcore aligned people in red states. That should be the no-brainer. But we got Tillis out of North Carolina. That's great. Hopefully we get better. But we got to look at some of these, picks and start thinking to ourselves, what does this look like for the next 10 years?
And this is where I think we're losing too, Mike, because just like you just said, we have this fraction of the Republicans that are asking for amnesty and stuff like that. There's no fraction of the Democrat Party right now that's saying, well, we should deport some of these people. They don't have to. They're all saying, no, don't deport anybody. They're saying, bring everybody here. There's no fraction of the Democrats that are like, well, we should just deport some of these people. And they don't have to deal with it. Whereas the Republicans, we have people here like, oh, we need amnesty. No, deport everybody. That's the game plan here. But we never have everybody on board on the same page. The Democrats are always always thinking the same street.
Yeah, no, that's the story of politics, national politics. The Democrats are like lemmings; they're all in line. Although their coalition's fracturing. I mean, you got like Zoran in New York, and
that's crazy.
Howell in Minneapolis. They're having an Islamist takeover of their political party right now, which is fun to watch. But yeah, Republicans can't get aligned, and the establishment, liberal Republicans are always, the fly in the punch bowl there. And so it's a time for choosing, frankly. And anyone who says we should only focus on criminals is advocating for an immigration policy that says, I call it like the one strike. You can come in here and you can kill a person and then you get deported. That's a dumb immigration strategy, to wait for someone to kill or rape someone before they seriously get removed. No, let's get people who are illegally here out. It's that simple. That's what the law says. If you're here illegally, you go.
Yeah, and they're saying these poor people who just broke into the country illegally here and are soaking up, the resources that we have here, that they shouldn't be deported, and it's ridiculous. I would imagine that most of the people, it's hard to say because it's I would imagine most real Democrats, or not left-wing lunatics or Trump derangement syndrome, the people that seem to be lost without a party, don't want this. I mean, especially if they're small business owners, if they don't want these illegal aliens here. So I just can't imagine where they rile up the people to agree with that the violent criminals should go without saying. If you're here and you can murder somebody, you got that's a no-brainer. But even the people that's been here and you're here illegally, you got to go. And I mean, I think most of the Americans are on board with that policy.
Think of what we put Americans through. I mean, you got to obey the law. You don't pay your taxes, you're in hell. There's no opt out of, unless you kill someone, you don't have to obey the other laws. That's just a two-tiered system of justice for people who don't deserve to be here. And it's either we have a country or we don't. And I think one thing we can hope for on the Democrat side is they're starting to lose control. And you see more of these Zorans pop up, more of these, Omar Fatwe or whatever his name is. I hope one day, the established class of the party apparatus is we can't contain this. We got to get more reasonable, or else we're just going to be governed by basically a bunch of Somalian radicals. And I'm not sure that's coming, but I'm sure they're absolutely freaking out. How do you keep a corporate funded, party going if you're just having it turn into this looting and chaos? So hopefully better angels will prevail. They definitely probably will not, but their primary is going to be ridiculous and a lot of fun to watch.
It's amazing how you think they can't get any more radical, and then another guy pops up like this Zoran. You're like, oh my God, it's crazy to watch. So I know you got the Oversight Project. What do you got going on over there? Where can the people find it? I know you're over at the Blaze. You got any pieces coming out? Hit me with what's coming up this week.
Yeah, we're really focusing in on the radicals. We're at It's Your Gov on X and itsyourgov.org on the websites, and I'm at mhowell tweets. But we're the ones behind this whole auto pen scandal. We're the ones who broke it, and it's getting momentum, obviously, in a lot of corners. And hopefully, we're pushing the Trump White House to actually, tell the DOJ to charge these people who got fake, pardons from the auto pen. People really want accountability. I think that's why people are so upset about the Epstein stuff. And, it's not just about Epstein. It's about the fact that we haven't seen anyone arrested and prosecuted for crimes generally. And so we're pushing all ways that they can do that. One thing to expect from us is we're really zeroing on these violent radicals throughout the country that are hurting people. And so we got a lot of operations going there. That No Kings protest they did a few weeks ago, we mapped out basically their networks, and guess what? They're all communist. I know, surprise, surprise. But, we want to prevent the lie from Democrats that this is just a moderate reaction to Trump policies, because it's not that. It's hardcore communist, what we're seeing. It's violence in the streets. And so we're going to be putting out evidence after evidence of the fact that this is a communist movement.
And I think you're 100% right. It's how I feel. We want to see accountability. We always hear all the talk, investigation, nobody charged, nobody arrested, nobody going to prison. Where when the Democrats have the ball, it's, investigation, arrest, and then prison. We've seen Steve Bannon go to jail, Peter Navarro go to prison. We've seen Trump's mugshot, Rudy Giuliani, all these people. The Democrats, they didn't care. And there was no riots, there was no protests, there was no nothing. We took our voice to the ballot box and put Trump back in office. Now we have the ball and we're not getting those results. And I think, we have to start seeing it soon.
I'm with you. I think it could really hurt the midterms if we don't. The MAGA base isn't going to stick around forever. President Trump's not on the ballot. They want to see the things they voted for happen: mass deportations, accountability. Obviously, a huge win already on the border, but it's time to start delivering for the people that brought Trump to the White House, not just these fence sitters.
Yeah. Mike Howell, it's been a pleasure. I got the links to your X account down there in the description below. I'd love to have you back on down the line. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the AlecLace Show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, honored to have Mike Howell on the podcast. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Mike's first time on the podcast. I really enjoyed that. Would love to have him back on down the line. Let me know if you feel the same way. Put a comment down there. And and by the way, I was talking about Joy Reid. She was on with Piers Morgan. That's what I was referring to. I couldn't think of it in my head at the time. But Piers Morgan basically asked her flat out, how many people did Obama deport? No clue, right? No clue. As if it doesn't matter how many people he deported. How many people did Bill Clinton deport, right? Oh, we don't know. Millions of people. But, that's irrelevant. So she was kind of stuck there, like saying, well, I don't care. And he's like, well, wait a minute. But anyway, so that was what I was referring to there when I was talking to Mike. Again, go visit him. He is over at the Oversight Project. He's the president. I got the link to his Twitter handle down there in the description below. You can find out more about him. And again, as I said, I'd like to have him back on down the line. But this is it. Deport everybody. That's it. Mass deportations have got to ramp up now that the money is in the till from the big, beautiful bill. Got to make it happen. No excuses here. All right, let's switch gears. I got Senator Tommy Tuberville coming back on the podcast here. He is the senator in Alabama. He's actually now running for governor of Alabama. I don't know if we can get into that actually today or not, but I would love to have him back on to discuss the governor race. But Tommy Tuberville, one of the best in the business, obviously legendary college football coach. So let's bring him back onto the podcast here.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm at the White House with my dad, and you're watching the AlecLace Show.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, here we go. Joining me now, Senator Tommy Tuberville. Welcome back to the AlecLace Show.
Great to see you again. How's it going?
Coach, awesome to see you as always. It feels like just yesterday we were 6 months until the election, and now we're 6 months into Trump's second term here. So what's your take on what Trump's accomplishments here in first 6 months, second term?
Well, I go back to my old coaching days. Winning corrects everything, and we're doing a lot of winning right now. President Trump's on the right track. He had a game plan when he came in. When he first won in 2016, it was a little bit of a surprise to everybody, including him. And he listened to too many people on who to hire. Now he's got a I would call a coaching staff that he's been thinking about for about 3 or 4 years. And they're all on the same page, especially the Secretary of Treasurer, the Commerce Department, all the above when it comes to the economy. And they're all winning. Of course, we had to stop the border. That was, it wasn't easy to stop it. It was just, we all knew it had to stop sooner or later, and that's been done. And, you know, we've saved $40 billion since we've closed the border down in terms of illegals getting payments from the American taxpayers. So it's all paying off. A lot of wins, but we got a long way to go.
Yeah, and I'm just on the border there. It's just, yes, we're saving the money. Yes, it's like this was, but it was done on purpose. We know that now. It was done intentionally. You had so much money that it cost the American taxpayers because of it. You've had so many kids that were trafficked over the border. Like you talk about now, we're focusing on, the Epstein thing. The Democrats are suddenly interested in for getting justice for kids that were trafficked. Where is the justice for the kids that were trafficked over Biden's open border for 4 years? And all these kids that have been hurt and harmed by these illegal immigrants. It seems like the Democrats have no care in the world, but somebody you feel like should be held accountable for allowing this invasion to happen.
Yeah, the lives that have been lost, the lives that have been trafficked, the lives that have been raped. You think of all the bad things that have happened over the years, but there was no thought about that. It was just, let's crash the border. Let's overrun the system. They did that financially. It was criminal, and people should be held accountable to that. Of course, Joe Biden, we know now, wasn't running the show. It all goes back to Obama and his cronies and people that were running the show back then. So somebody's got to be held accountable. I hope that happens. We are $37 trillion in debt and leaking oil very badly. And again, we've got to do the easy things like the border, keeping people off Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. That's happening. Had a reception last night where Dr. Oz, he is fired. He is the perfect guy for that job in handling Medicare, Medicaid. He's got a good staff behind him. Of course, Bobby Kennedy was able to bring a lot of the young people aboard to the Republican Party with MAHA. And who doesn't want to have non-poisonous food and clean water? I mean, just think about that. So a lot of good things have been done, Alec.
Yeah, it almost feels like another thing where we need accountability is the poisonous food didn't get to us by mistake. That wasn't an accident. That was done on purpose. That's been done by design for years. We've been eating this poisonous crap, people getting obese, heart attacks, diabetes, all kinds of stuff. And it's like now we're saying, okay, we're going to move away from that. But who was responsible for putting that poison in our food in the first place? It's like, again, one of those things where you say somebody should pay a price for it.
Yeah, you go back, look at the big corporations, and there's a lot of them have been sued right and left. They paid huge fines, but they continue to make huge profits. Yeah. And so something's got to be done about that. And again, our farmers have been left out in the cold and all this. They've been, they want to do the right thing. We have to make sure we're food sufficient. We cannot end up like what happened with COVID when we looked around going, we don't make drugs anymore. They're all made in China. We don't need to do the same thing with food. And that's going to happen now if we don't protect our farmers. President Trump loves our farmers. Joe Biden and the Democrats want all farming to be done overseas. They think that our farmers are creating havoc for our climate, which is total nonsense. And so we're getting back to the old America. And again, there's some things obviously that we needed to correct over the years, but most everything we've done in 249 years have been done right and have been done by Americans.
Yeah, well said, Coach. And let me get to the Russiagate thing, because now we have, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, really sounding like there's she's got the proof. This is going to hold water that Obama and his cronies there undermined President Donald Trump completely, which we all know. I mean, it's not like something that we're unsure of. Trump called this out back then, saying they spied on my campaign. He knew very well. My question is, do you think we're going to see somebody actually held accountable for this, meaning like Obama in handcuffs or on trial? And what do you think the reaction is going to be to that from the Democrats?
Well, first of all, I think the American people are going to say, we need a closure on this. We need to know what happened and who did it. That they're not going to put some of these people in jail. I want them to go to court, though. I want them to get on the stand and have to tell their side of the story. I want them to have to spend millions of dollars, as President Trump did, on lawyers. They need to be held accountable. And the American taxpayers need to have some closure on this. We all knew what was going on. We didn't know 100%, but you could just see the things that were going. The signals were there of they were doing something nefarious behind the scenes to go after President Trump, all the way to 2 assassination attempts. And I worry for President Trump today. I really do. But at the end of the day, I think it all started with President Obama, and they did not want disclosed what we all knew behind the scenes was the deep state. And it's going to get very, very ugly as we go through this. I'm proud of Tulsi Gabbard of coming out with this. She's been looking into it. There's some other things that people are looking into, but if you go back and look at John Solomon, what he did over the years, Jim Jordan in the House, and then the lies that came from some of these Democratic congressmen that they just, we know of Russia collusion of President Trump. Those people that said that, they need to go to jail. I mean, because they created so many problems for the American people in our country. You can't put a price tag on it.
Well, I believe the media is complicit in that too, because they took the ball and ran with it. Instead of doing investigative journalism and saying, wait a second here, this isn't right, this isn't true. They ran with the ball. They were more than happy to jump on that and exploit it just as much as they are now to stay quiet about it and not even seem to cover what Tulsi Gabbard is uncovering.
Yeah, well, the mainstream media is over. You sack the bats on that. That's the reason you and I are talking right here. People get their news from this because it's real life, and people tell the truth on podcasts, most of them. And I think that with these generations coming up, with the computer now being around for a long time, the internet, people are sick and tired of the media that basically is one-sided. If they were balanced, I think that our media could survive. But the way it's going now, they can't survive. It's not going to survive in terms of being able to sell advertising. Nobody watches anymore. I don't watch it very little. I get my news from what we're doing here and from people that actually know what's going on. And I think that's what most Americans are going to do now that President Trump is revealing all of the nefarious things that are going on in our country in the last 8 years.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. And I wanted to get to the ICE attacks that we're seeing here now. We just saw one of them, CBP officer shot in the head over there in New York City, and the attacks have gone up 700%. What the Democrats seem to be almost like throwing fuel on the fire here, and they're getting these people all fired up to fight ICE, to resist ICE, to get notified and tell people when ICE is coming, and it's doing damage. It's putting the lives of the illegal immigrants in danger. It's putting the lives of the ICE agents in danger and the general public in danger. So, what's your take to what we're seeing right now to this response to ICE agents?
Well, it's all been coming. It all started with Black Lives Matter, with defund the police. The police are bad. That's what they've all told all these young people growing up. And then now you move up to the level of the Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, all these people that every day they get up now and they know they're going to walk into a hornet's nest of people that are here illegally. Now, most are probably not armed or wanting to inflict harm on anybody. But you do have those terrorists. You do have the people, the criminals that are here, the traffickers, the drug people. And so because of that, when these Border Patrol people or ICE goes into these situations, they need to be protected. They need to be armed, and they need to be given the right to defend themselves. President Trump has authorized that. And people ask me, what do you think about it? And I said, if they're shot at, they need to shoot back. Hey, this is not a country of you can do whatever you want to anybody. And if you're here illegally, you need to pay the consequences. Now, people don't need to be shot just because they're illegal. But if you're trafficking kids or drugs or murdering people or raping people, whatever you get, you deserve.
And it just seems like, the media with the Democrats have painted a target on these guys back by what they're doing. And they're making it seem justified as if ICE agents are doing something wrong. They've painted them as the enemy, so much so that where you think they want to walk around with masks on their face? They have to do it because these people are doxing them and going after their families. And it's like, we should be in the position here. They're working for us. This is for the American taxpayer. What they're doing is what we voted for. And the media is making these people the enemy of America.
And the mouthpiece is coming from these blue state mayors and governors that are running their mouth, that don't want law and order because they thrive in their leadership roles of hanging on to leadership when things are bad in these cities. I watched yesterday Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, one of the icons of tourism in our country, almost closed completely down now because of no law and order in one of the most beautiful cities in our country, San Francisco. It should be over with. Karen Bass this LA mayor, she's a communist. I mean, she spent most of her time in Cuba and talking about we don't need to be going after the illegals. She needs to shut her mouth and understand she's a socialist. And all a socialist is, by the way, it's communist without a gun. Now, there's really no difference. And so socialism is trying to take over in New York, in Chicago, in Detroit, in San Francisco, LA, all these places are out of control. President Trump's going to get it back. And the future is going to be, we're going to have clean streets, safe neighborhoods, and people are going to love this country again, where they grew up and have a chance to go back. But right now it is out of control, and ICE is trying to do whatever it needs, and along with local law enforcement, to take back our streets.
And a lot of this stuff is getting funded here, Coach, too, because these protests and resisting ICE, none of it seems organic. All of it seems very organized. It's not like when you have a Trump rally and you have people show up from all over the country on their own will. These are people that are set up with signs and organization that's going on. And I was just talking to Mike Howell about this, with the oversight. And it just seems like it's the same type of people that are involved in funding this as were involved with getting these people here in the first place across the open border.
Yeah, it's all been a scheme from the Democrats. You know, they wanted them to vote. They didn't realize a lot of these people coming in were murderers and thugs and drugs, and we're losing over 100,000 more kids a year because of overdoses. It's all a plan by the Democrats, and it's a complete disaster. They have no plan to clean it up now. Now President Trump is left to that, but you know what? He's the one guy that can get it done. That's the way it should happen. Now, I was on a panel the other day where this one guy was telling that he's been called to hire paid protesters to go out and protest ICE and go out in front of these groups and throw rocks and bricks, but paid for it. So those type of people that are doing that, taking money, I don't care what happens to them. I really don't. Taking money to attack policemen, to attack ICE, whatever happens to them needs to happen. And again, these are Americans. A lot of these are Americans. These aren't individuals that are illegals. They're actually paid protesters. Now, they could go get a normal job, but that's not what they want to do. They want to create havoc and fall in on that socialism, communism train. And again, whatever happens to them when they run into ICE or local law enforcement, hey, anything goes.
And it should be that way, and there should be accountability, and there should be an example made of these people, just like what we saw in a smaller way when they were damaging the Teslas and firebombing Teslas. Then there was some accountability. People had to pay the price, and all of a sudden it stopped. I think you need to see something like that here with this as well.
Yeah, I love it where some of these states are saying, if you get in front of a car to try to block a street, if something happens to you, it's your fault. Get out of the damn street and quit trying to stop traffic.
Yep. Last thing, President Trump was asking Leader Thune to cancel or interrupt the August recess so we can get through some of these nominees. What's your take on that? You willing to give up some of this summer recess or what?
Oh, yeah. We need to do whatever we can to get the team put together. Because here's what's happening. The Democrats are dragging their feet, not allowing us to do what we need to do in a faster process. They could allow that to happen. I'm going to tell you one thing. I promise you, there's one group that doesn't want to come back in August. It's the Democrats. And so I would hope that we work some kind of deal with the Democrats to make sure that we can get some more of these nominations expedited to where we can get them confirmed and get them to work and try to straighten this country out. But it's going to take the Democrats helping. They don't like to help, but they also don't like to work the month of August.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I know that there's a lot of important stuff's got to go down. Coach, Senator Tommy Tuberville, always an honor. I got to get you out of here. I'd love to have you back on down the line. Thanks for joining me today on the AlecLace Show.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right, grateful to have Senator Tommy Tuberville back on the podcast here. What you guys think about that interview? Hit me with a comment down below. I want to switch gears quickly here now, right away. I got my friend Jim Pfaff joining me to close this out. We're going to get into some more of maybe some more of the Epstein, some of the Russiagate stuff, but also we're going to focus on Trump's wins here 6 months in. Jim Pfaff, the president of the Conservative Caucus. You guys have heard him on the show many times. Let's bring him back on.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Jim Pfaff. Welcome back to the AlecLace Show.
Good to be with you, Alec.
Great to see you again. So much going on, as usual, here in the political world. And I kind of wanted to start with you first to get your take on this, because the Epstein case files has dominated the news cycle. It seems like now the media is after, especially the Democrats, after 4 years, never mentioning Epstein, the media could care less about it. Now it's the only thing they want to focus on. And now we just have the House Oversight approved the motion, I believe, which was by Tim Burchett, to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell. And we also have the Deputy Attorney General going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. So what's your take and your breakdown on this whole thing?
Well, I think it's very useful to try to figure out what the heck went on with the Epstein files. There's a lot of criminality there. I side with General Flynn, who's early on as this started to break out, was or at least the most recent breakout was talking about the fact that there are pedophiles, there are potential criminal activity here. I'm not sure that all of it's criminal activity. You've got a lot of people who are just lascivious, immoral people doing immoral things because they're big shots, and so there's some of that. And we don't have to go criminally after everybody. It'll take them down. It'll be a brouhaha, but there's some criminality to go after here. And so I think that can be useful. But, the most important thing that I think I'm trying to tell people they need to understand, you're not going to take down the deep state if the Epstein files come out in full. That's not going to get to the heart of the matter. You'll get a few people who are involved in the deep state because, the radical corruption of human nature is such that some people get caught up in that. But you're not going to take down John Brennan or James Clapper or James Comey with the Epstein files. They weren't involved in all that. And nor are you going to take Barack Obama. And these are the key players in what has been happening over the last 10 plus years in the undermining of the American people by trying to take down a duly elected president and trying to silence political opponents, a very third world thing. I mean, Barack Obama is a third world actor. He always was, and we're seeing more clearly now what's going on. That's what I'm most concerned about. But again, I mean, the Epstein files, I want transparency just like everybody else.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm going to get to the Russiagate thing in just a second here, but just to stay on this, I mean, I do agree. Here's the thing. I do agree with the majority of the people that say this was not handled correctly. I agree with that. I don't think it was handled properly. I think this could have been done much better. I think we do need, there's a part of it that's like, we all kind of want to see that who's on this Epstein list after all these years. Is it Oprah Winfrey? Is it these Hollywood stars? Is it all this? This has kind of become like it's built like a mind of its own, this entire thing of who could be on it. Everyone. And the problem with the thing not being out is that everyone could say everybody is on it. Yeah. So you could throw any name that you want. The thing takes on a life of its own with that. And so it would be good to put this thing to bed. But on the other hand, coming from President Donald Trump's point of view, this thing wasn't a campaign promise of his. This was always a nice have for him. It wasn't a must have. It wasn't his main focus, his main priority. But it just, the way that the thing came out of the gate with the influencers having the binders, the files are on the desk, and they kind of promoted it in a way where it was like, oh, okay, we're going to get all this stuff. And then it was kind of yanked out of us on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock at night saying, hey, we have nothing.
Yeah. And those binders that were handed out at the White House, like really, really bad form. There is important information here, and there's a lot of areas in government where we get no transparency. I think you're right to point out the fact that everyone's going to get thrown in on it for any good reason. This is also Donald Trump's point too. Everyone's going to get thrown in on this for any good reason, just to take him down, and they may be entirely innocent of things. This is a guy Donald Trump, who did not have a perfect moral lifestyle. I mean, it was all out there on display, and yet people tried to use that as a central reason for him not to be able to be president, not to have authority, and it was an illegitimate reason to take him down, especially now since he seems to be happily married and committed. So we don't want this kind of thing to just take people down just because it feels really good to make Oprah Winfrey look bad. And she already looks plenty bad, so you don't have to go anymore. So anyway, I do want to be cautious of that. That's a worse distraction than anything from the key things like Russiagate, which we'll talk about, that we really need to be concerned of.
Right. And here, and the last point on this is, if you say, yes, I'm interested in the Epstein files, I want to know who it is, but I want to get focused on the Obamagate, I want to get focused on deportations, then they say, oh, you're protecting pedophiles now. The people that didn't talk about it for 4 years, didn't care about any of it, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, if you don't talk about it, you're protecting them. And it's total nonsense.
Yeah, Democrats want the distraction. Too many people in MAGA world are getting distracted in the wrong way about this. Again, I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't be concerned, but if they think that this is the central argument of all that's been going on in Washington, D.C., and even internationally, they're really missing the boat because there's so much more and more significant things that they need to be addressing.
And let's get now with the Russiagate now with Tulsi Gabbard. This is like a huge bombshell. I mean, she's throwing out words like treason. She's talking about this, saying we have all. The way she sounds to me is very confident that they have what it takes to actually bring this thing and prosecute and put people away. That's the way it seems like she's coming off. And if that's the case, it's way long overdue. The media does not want to touch it, despite the fact that it's the biggest political scandal in history. I mean, this will make Nixon's whole Watergate thing look like just a little speed bump. And the media journalists want nothing to do with it. They fumbled their opportunity to break the story because they didn't care. But now it looks like it's all coming true.
Oh, totally. Listen, you can look back nostalgically on the kind of corruption that existed during the Nixon administration when you see what's been going on for decades since. I mean, Watergate was horrible. I'm not trying to say it was great,
Right.
but seriously, that is just child's play compared to what's happening right now. The one thing that's got to happen here is Tulsi and Donald Trump, obviously, with the help of Pam Bondi, they better really get to prosecutions. Like, don't make the claims, don't put out the information, and not take that kind of serious action. And it's going to take that kind of serious action to get this done. I was laughing the other day because I saw posts of people on the left saying, hey, you can't arrest a former president, about Obama. And I'm like, are you really listening to yourself? I mean, if someone has done criminal behavior, they should pay a criminal penalty. And in fact, Gerald Ford, Nixon would have been subject to criminal penalties had Gerald Ford not pardoned him. I mean, this is absolutely on the table to do, and it's serious enough that we better be pursuing it. People don't realize Barack Obama set into motion certain things. I mean, there was a lot of bad going on in government prior to him, but he set in motion certain things. The weaponization of government, in his case through the IRS, and through some other means, and most of this NGO problem that we've been dealing with and addressing through USAID and elsewhere, the Stacey Abrams $2 billion from the EPA, all that is utilizing our tax dollars to support a certain political party so that they can have a leg up and an advantage with the imprimatur of government to take down the American ideal. The Democrat Party is not an American party at all.
Well, here's the thing, Jim, and I agree with you. And I started out the show really today by saying we need the accountability now. We have all this momentum, but we're so used to the GOP not doing anything. And the difference between us is Trump's posting the meme with the Shady Bunch with Obama and Brennan and Comey. And that's all fun. We enjoy that. It's like, oh, okay, maybe this is some foreshadowing. The difference is when the Democrats had the ball, we had actual mugshots of Giuliani, of Trump, of Bannon, of Navarro. They put these people in prison, some of them, and they had them in court. They had them on trial. They were trying to ruin their lives. And for us, it's always like, well, we're going to have some oversight. Well, we're going to have some investigations. Well, we're going to bring people in and talk to them. And it's like, we want handcuffs and we want some accountability. And if it doesn't happen now I will give you this. We're only 6 months in. It's not like we're at the last of the 6 months here. We don't have only 6 months to go. We are at the beginning, but something has to happen now.
I think you have to point out the fact that still, in spite of what everyone's all frustrated with on the Epstein files, and as we're moving forward on this Russiagate stuff, we need to recognize this is the most consequential presidential administration in the modern era. Hands down. No one has done more in 6 months than Donald Trump. And we do have to keep that effort going. But the wonderful thing about this Russiagate thing that Tulsi Gabbard threw on the table, and continues, by the way, to throw on the table, she's going to be releasing more stuff. The great thing about that is it did happen within the first 6 months. It's going to give some time to adjudicate this, and it's necessary that it be adjudicated in front of the American people so that the disaster of government that we've been dealing with because of Republican and Democrat neglect in the presidency for so long can get fixed. And I'm encouraged at the outset. I'm anxious, I guess, a little bit about the follow through. That's what we really need.
Yeah, and I feel like the Democrats don't, and also too, I don't want to kind of fall into the same trap of the Democrats where they were always like with Trump, well, we got him now, the end is near, the walls are closing in, and I don't want to fall into that trap like, oh, that's it, we got him now, we have him, and because I know better with the GOP, they fooled me not once but 1,000 times with all this stuff where they don't follow through, they don't put nobody in prison, and again, I don't know what the reaction will be from the left, from the media, and from the Democrats. Should all this actually play out, we do put people in handcuffs and put people in prison, it will be vastly different than the way that the GOP or the MAGA people responded when Trump was arrested.
There's no doubt about it. And listen, do not count on Republicans in Congress standing firm on this. What we need is Republicans in the White House doing that. And in fact, we have a couple former Democrats in RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard that are totally focused on this. So that's where the game's going to be. You'll get some members of Congress, but you're right. Congress doing committee hearings is useless unless there are subpoenas, that the investigations are not just public, but substantive, and criminal referrals are made where information is found. And you can only make criminal referrals if you do substantive efforts in committee hearings and investigations. Congress is weak about that. Republicans are the worst. Democrats are bad about it too. They've done their political investigations as well. January 6th being the best example, which was not even consistent with House rules. I mean, it was a total violation of the House process. And yet they went after it fully. Republicans had better get on board and go fully after it. Support Donald Trump in this, because there's a real opportunity to fix things. As I said in 2016, when a lot of Cruz supporters were all hacked off about Donald Trump, I'm like, listen, I've been in D.C. It's bad. You don't know how bad it is. But if he becomes president, he's going to kick the trash cans over, and you're going to really know how bad D.C. is. That's already happened. There are a few more trash cans to kick over, and we're seeing the outset of that with Tulsi Gabbard's revelations.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the accountability piece of this. That's the big portion of this we're waiting for. And it's almost like, too, this is what I hate about the politics, Jim, and all this stuff that we see. It's like it almost seems like we kind of run on a treadmill, and we never really get anywhere with it. It's like Trump declassified the JFK files. They just declassified 230,000 documents of MLK Jr.'s assassination. And I feel like we don't know anything more now than we did prior to Trump coming in. And it's like, why are they classifying all these documents as if there's nothing there? And I think that if it all actually does lead back to our government involvement, then we're never going to get the truth out of it. If the same thing with Epstein, the same thing with JFK, RFK, MLK, if it points back to us, our intelligence being involved in this stuff, I think they're just going to keep dancing us around and running us on the treadmill so we can't find the truth.
Well, this is why I'm not too ultra critical of people that are so focused on the Epstein files right now, because of the fact that, we do need transparency. And even if it's our people or the people we like, we still need to hold them accountable. But see, that's how the American system was designed to work. This is a government of we the people, popular sovereignty. We're the kings. Now, we express that most ardently during each election cycle, but we have to do it in the in-between times. We also have a media that is unwilling to do its job. Even Fox News, by the way, I'm very disappointed. They talk about it. They talk about it. It's almost like they're talking about the horse race while it's happening and just describing it, instead of getting involved in the race itself. And we need a media that's willing to do that. And there are some that do it. You've got Catherine Herridge and John Solomon and some other people that are great investigative reporters who are doing some of the legwork on this. But we need a whole lot more. This is the promise of social media, too. Everybody on social media, like yourself and others, we need to do the hard work to make sure that we expose what's going on. That's the real opportunity for freedom in all this, and I hope we do it. And again, if Trump does the follow through combined with that, we could really have a renaissance on our hands.
Yeah, because now we get to like the wins portion of this. He's only 6 months in, and we have the border, which was sealed now, which was, you could call it a miracle the way he did it, or you could just call it common sense that any president could have done at any time he wanted to. It wasn't like he had to really move heaven and earth to close the border. He did it very simply. So the border obviously closed. He's cut the inflation down. He's added, I don't know how many jobs, 700,000 jobs. He's got all the investments coming in, the $15 trillion plus in investments. He's got the one big beautiful bill with the middle class tax cuts. So in the first 6 months, it seems like he's moving at a phenomenal pace. How do you put this first 6 months up compared to Trump's first term and the way he was at this point?
Well, it's been phenomenal. I mean, obviously, one of the big reasons for that success is that he's not hampered like he was with people in his administration or in the deep state undermining him and harming him. That doesn't have a big Mueller investigation. He's got a whole lot more of a free hand, but he's actually got a great team in place. And one of the key areas of success, which you just alluded to there, is on immigration policy. I think, in my opinion, I love Donald Trump's cabinet, but of all the people he's appointed to key positions, I think Tom Homan may be the most fantastic. This guy, obviously, because of his decades of experience around immigration policy, both in Border Patrol and ICE, he totally knows the ins and outs, but he's also been very determined. And the guy he's tough dude. I love a tough, determined person. In fact, if every Republican would learn from Tom Homan and Donald Trump how to do things, they would get a lot more done than they do. These guys really are doers. I love Tom Homan. I think he is the rock star he's the rock star of rock stars of everybody in the Trump cabinet and Trump administration.
It's been cool. I've had the opportunity to speak with him down at the White House a few times when I've been there. And I love when he comes over for the gaggle and he starts talking to the press because he's just as real as you can get. He's not a polished politician. He doesn't have prepared answers. He thinks for a second and then speaks right off the cuff, and he goes right after these people. He uses his own, vernacular, which is really tough. And it's just great to watch him just take them down. And I agree with you. He is, if not the best, one of the best that they have in the administration. And the other part of this, too, is that all of this stuff that Trump is doing positive for the American people, positive for the middle class, positive that he's fulfilling campaign promises that he made, the media gives him zero credit, and they turn it around and they spin it as if the whole country is falling apart. When actually, when Joe Biden was in there and everything got screwed up, they tried to cover it up for him to try to oh, look, he likes to have vanilla ice cream. He rides a bicycle. They did everything to cover up for Joe Biden. They won't even do anything to say, hey, look at what this guy has done. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We're in the place we are because Donald Trump had the courage to deal with all the lawfare coming at him. And by the way, the means. I mean, this is another real big issue. He had the means to defend himself, or found the means to do so. So I'm grateful for it. We really have a reset opportunity, and Donald Trump is right to call to his supporters, to MAGA supporters, and say, let's focus on the important things. And that is a really challenging part of getting anything done, whether you're running an organization, even just living your own family life. To learn how to focus on what's important is how you get things done. Donald Trump's doing it, and his people are doing it. So this is a great administration. I'm very pleased.
And I'll tell you what, I love the way he does, and I'll get you out of here. But it's I love how he throws in the Redskins and the Indians. We should throw the names back, and then he just kind of leaves that sit out there. The thing goes viral. The media blows up over it, and he knows that that's what's going to happen. They go because we know that it's not the Indian community that didn't want that shit. It was white liberal women that were offended by the Redskins. So he knows that. So he throws that out there, and the media goes absolutely ballistic over it, and he knows that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, and that same sort of approach has to continue on even when Donald Trump's not on the scene, because we got into the position where a Redskins logo created by an Indian, supported by the largest group of Indians that represent themselves in the country, got taken down because of these, this cachet among some white people that they had to prove that they're morally superior to everyone else. Moral superiority is proven through actions, not through statements. It's proven through positive efforts that lead to something, not negative efforts that are designed to tear down. And we're in the midst right now in this country, still, even with these positive developments, we're in the midst of an effort to destroy the American ideal, which is really strong. That's why I'm going to keep repeating everywhere I can that the Democrat Party, as it presently is, and I'm talking from the state level all the way up into the federal level, is not an American party. They don't believe in the ideals of the Constitution. Shoot, it's hard enough to get Republicans to act upon that as it is. I mean, we would have 75% less government if they just followed the Constitution. But they don't not only disregard the ideals of the Constitution, they're literally attempting to create in us exactly what's going on in Brazil right now. That's what they're shooting for. They want political opponents jailed. You've got former President Jair Bolsonaro with an ankle bracelet on because they want to prosecute him for attempting a coup that he couldn't have attempted because he was in Florida. I mean, that's the kind of, and then shutting down social media because it's harmful to the government. I mean, it's crazy. That is the ideal that Democrats have. They actually were implementing that during the Biden administration, and thankfully we got it stopped. We got to keep contending for it day in and day out.
I do think that they are going to be at their most dangerous level real soon, because I think that they're seeing that their base is pretty much abandoning them on almost all these issues. They're almost on an island by themselves promoting communism and socialism. Their approval rating is the lowest it's ever been in history. They're about as popular as Stephen Colbert or the WNBA. And so now they're losing the base. Trump is winning. He's hammering them on all cylinders. Our base is growing stronger. And so I think that that's when they're going to be most dangerous, because they're going to see that they're getting pushed out. And I think that's when they're going to come at it, in the worst way possible.
Yeah, they're literally like a squirrel caught up in a corner. Like, yeah. It's not very harmful to you, except while it's in the corner, it can attack back and bite you. I mean, it is going to get a little bit worse with them before it gets better. Because they don't want to give up what they are. And because they're unwilling to do that, they're going to fight for it harder. It'll get a little bit more nasty. It's just up to us to keep the advantages that we have by staying firm to the principles. And if we can do that, we can really win in the long run. And Donald Trump should have inspired every person to understand what it will take to do what's right. And it's through a bit of suffering, but always worth it, because the truth does prevail in the end. If you stay this is where Republicans always grab defeat out of the jaws of victory. If you stay consistent to principle and to ultimate truth to the end, you will prevail, because everyone has a witness in their heart that they know what really is real. They only fake it when they want to maintain power, and they want to maintain, even in the case of the Epstein files, sexual dalliances. But this is the other thing on the Epstein files I want to throw in here, because I think it relates to this. It's one thing to have these immoral sexual dalliances. Those last for a moment. They're intermittent in the opportunities you have to act in such an immoral behavior. But when you've got power, that is an all day long aphrodisiac. You're utilizing it all the time. That's why John Brennan and James Comey and James Clapper and even Barack Obama are more dangerous than anyone on the Epstein list, because they still have influence and power, and they want to maintain it. And they know that if they can keep Donald Trump from following through on all of this, that all they got to do is wait a little longer and they'll be able to pop back up. That is the aphrodisiac and the corruption of power. And that's what we're fighting against. And you have to, I worked for Dr. Dobson at Focus on the Family, for a few years, and a lot of the people on the staff would sometimes want to be really gentle in their response to the attacks on Dr. Dobson. Dr. Dobson would say, "What are you talking about? You need to meet passion with passion." This is why one of the reasons he supported Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's like that too. We need to meet passion for passion in this political environment. If they're going to be passionate for evil, we need to be passionate for truth, and we need to be fighting for it. This is a battle. Obviously, we're not shooting at each other. That's not that kind of a battle. But as I say, politics is war by other means. We really are in a battle, and we've got to undertake this. We need to call these people out for what they've done. That's why I'm going to say over and over again, the Democrat Party is not an American party. It is not. It doesn't even resemble anything American. It resembles third world dictatorships and radical Democrat socialists in other countries. China is a whole lot more what the Democrat Party's like. It is not a communist China. It is not American. And we need to make that clear, and we need to make that play out in everything we do every day, because if we can win that battle, we will have our country back.
Yeah. Amen. Jim Pfaff, you nailed it. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. I got the link to the Conservative Caucus down there in the description below. Love to have you back on the show. We'll do it again soon. Thanks for joining me today on the AlecLace Show.
Thanks, Alec. Always great to be with you.
All right, grateful to Jim Pfaff for joining me on the podcast. Again, he is the president of the Conservative Caucus. Got the link down there in the description below. Hit me with a comment down there if you guys enjoyed the interview. Always a pleasure to have Jim on the show. A couple of last things I wanted to hit on here. We were talking about, Tennessee Congressman Mark Green resigned, leaving the House now one seat less than we had. It's now 219 to 212. Would be nice to see him hang in there and finish out the term. I know he said he was thinking about retiring in the last term, but decided to stay on because President Trump, he wanted to put his agenda through, but stay on all the way. He said he got a lucrative offer from the private sector that he couldn't turn down. You know what? If you're going to serve the people, because now we're missing another spot. We got a slim majority to begin with, so not a fan of that. If you're gonna run, then run for the whole course here. So I didn't really like to see that. One of the other things I wanted to touch on before I let you guys go was Barack Obama did a podcast with his wife, and what I found so fascinating was that this guy now. Here's the big switch, right? Anybody that's listened to me for any length of time knows I've talked about Barack Obama's Father's Day speech from 2008. I point to it a lot when I'm talking about the fatherless crisis, particularly in the black community. And I thought Barack Obama's Father's Day speech in 2008 was very, very good and very on point, where he would say, basically summing it up, that every young man needs to have a father in the home. He talked about all of the issues that I've harped on for many years about what happens with young men when they grow up without a father in the home. And so he talked about that at length. And, obviously they threatened his life, and he never talked about it ever again after that for 8 years of his presidency. But it was interesting now to hear him on the podcast with Michelle as they try to claim that they have this happy marriage and they're not getting divorced. It was interesting how Barack Obama now says that, remember, in 2008, he said every young man needs to have a father in the home. Now he says every young man needs to have a gay friend. What happened to this guy, right? Here he is telling you, you know what young men need? They need to have a gay friend. Back in 2008, you know what the young men need? They need a father in the home. Look at how the messaging has changed, right? I thought that was kind of comical, but we are still at a high level of fatherless kids in this country. It is the number one social issue that's plaguing the country, in my opinion. And I wanted to just also, as we close out here, give Nike a little praise for their ad that they put out that you've already won with the golfer, with his kid. I thought that was, we need to see more of that, especially from someplace like Nike, who seems to went so woke and now seems to be pulling back a little bit. And I think we need more ads like this, and he was shining the spotlight more on fatherhood. I think the future is family, and I think we need to celebrate it more. I think and I'm going to get into more of that stuff as we go down on the show here, but had a lot to pack in there today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thursday on the podcast, I got Congressman Troy Nehls joining me, so make sure you bring it back for that, working on other guests and see what else I can do. Follow me on X at AlecLace. And great to be back with you guys. Thanks for coming back to the show here, showing some support. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee. I got the link down there in the description below. Something different that I'm trying there. If you guys want to show support for the show, you could do it that way. And don't forget that I have the Trump is Trending. You can find that on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. You can hear that one as well. All right. Grateful for the guests, to the guests for joining me on the show. I'll be back here on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Rumble. God bless you parents out there and you listeners. God bless our police, our first responders. God bless America, our military, our veterans. God bless America. And I will catch you guys on Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is